Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. Today, we're doing some heavy lifting, diving into the absolute foundation of clear communication, the architecture of English grammar. I actually like to think of grammar not as this set of frustrating, rigid restrictions, but more like a breathtaking, highly logical puzzle. When you understand how the pieces snap together, you can build some truly incredible sentences. So today, we're going to demystify two of the most critical pillars of this architecture: active and passive voice, and subject-verb agreement. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the power of voice, the transformation formula, and navigating the tenses. Then we'll pivot to subject-verb agreement basics, look at some tricky subjects and pronouns, and finally wrap it all up with the 5 golden rules. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the power of voice, Act 1, the anatomy of action. Think of every sentence you write as a mini movie. The question you've got to ask yourself as the director is, who is the true hero of this sentence? Is it the person doing the action, or is it the object receiving the action? Well, that directorial choice is exactly what grammatical voice is all about. Voice, or voice in Kannada, simply shows whether the subject performs the action, which we call active voice, or receives it, which is passive voice. I love having these bilingual touchstones, by the way. Grounding these concepts in Kannada just creates such a highly accessible, inclusive way to learn. It really clicks. Active means the subject is the doer. Passive means the subject is the receiver. Simple as that. Now, notice the shift in focus here. On the left, in the active voice, the subject does the action. Ravi writes a letter. Ravi is the star of the show. He's doing the work. But look at the right side. In the passive voice, the subject receives the action. A letter is written by Ravi. Suddenly, the letter is the star. The focus has entirely shifted away from the doer directly onto the receiver. Moving right along to Section 2, the transformation formula. Act 2, the alchemy of grammar. So now that we have the concept down conceptually, let's talk mechanics. How do we actually turn the active into the passive? Well, here is your step-by-step master key to unlock this transformation every single time. Step 1, identify the subject, verb, and object. Step 2, move that object right to the very beginning of the new sentence. Step 3, add the correct helping verb for whatever tense you're currently in. Step 4, change your main verb to the V3 form, the past participle. And finally, Step 5, add by plus your original subject. Now, a really crucial reminder here, guys, only transitive verbs can undergo this transformation. That means your verb absolutely must have a direct object to move to the front. You can't passivize a sentence like he sleeps because, well, there's no object receiving the sleeping. Section 3, navigating the tenses, or as I call it, the time traveler's guide. As the timeline of our sentences changes from present to past to future, our formula has to adapt with it. But what's really interesting about this slide is how cleanly the V3 past participle, the written part, remains entirely constant, no matter what time period we're in. Only the helping verbs shift. Simple present writes becomes is written. Simple past wrote becomes was written. And simple future will write beautifully shifts to will be written. Think of the helping verb as your time machine and the V3 verb as your anchor. Okay, here is where people stumble all the time, and you really need to burn this into your memory. Letter wrote by him is entirely incorrect. Why? Because it forgets the unbreakable law of the passive voice. It always requires the V3 past participle and a helping verb. The correct form is, the letter was written by him. So never leave your main verb stranded in the simple past when you're trying to build a passive sentence. Section 4, subject-verb agreement basics. Act 3, the pact. We're pivoting now to the second core pillar of our grammar architecture. Every single grammatically correct sentence in the English language requires a binding, unbreakable pact between the subject and the verb. The subject-verb agreement basically dictates that a verb must match its subject in number, meaning singular or plural, and in person. Laying this simple foundation is just massive. Honestly, mastering this one matching rule is the absolute easiest way to prevent those glaring errors that examiners are hunting for in tests and that your colleagues definitely notice in daily professional emails. So the crucial point here is symmetry. A singular pact requires a singular subject and a singular verb. The boy plays cricket. A plural pact requires a plural subject and a plural verb. The boys play cricket. Now, notice a fun little quirk here. In the simple present tense, third-person singular verbs playfully grab an extra s or es. The singular boy plays with an s, but the plural boys just play. It feels a little bit backward, I know, but it's the ironclad rule of the pact. On to Section 5, Tricky Subjects and Pronouns, Navigating the Traps. If English grammar is an architecture, it definitely has a few trapdoors built right into the floorboards. The language loves to set up these deceptive subjects that look plural but act singular, or vice versa. First up is the dual nature of the word and. Normally, joining two things with and creates a plural. Ravi and Ronnie are friends. 1 + 1 = 2. However, we have the and exception. If the two words refer to a single unified concept, it takes a singular verb. Bread and butter is my breakfast. You aren't eating two totally separate breakfasts, right? It's one delicious unified entity, so it gets a singular verb. All right, the next trap. Indefinite pronouns. Words like everyone, somebody, each, and neither are strictly singular. Now, I know everyone feels like a massive crowd of people, but grammatically speaking, it means every single one. It demands a singular verb. Everyone is happy. On the flip side of that, words like both, few, many, and several will always trigger your plural verbs. Now, here's one of the most common exam traps out there, and it all comes down to a single word. The number of students is increasing versus a number of students are absent. It's literally just the article at the front. Using the locks the phrase into a single specific statistic, so it's singular, but using a scatters the phrase into a general plural group of individuals, so it becomes plural. The number is, but a number are. And we certainly can't forget our singulars in disguise. These are words that look incredibly plural because of that trailing s at the end, but they are entirely singular in action. The news, physics, mathematics, economics, politics. You would never say the news are good. You say the news is good. Mathematics is my favorite subject. Don't let that S trick you. These are entirely unified subjects. Which brings us to Section 6, the 5 Golden Rules. Act 4, Mastery. We've covered a whole lot of ground today, breaking down sentences, shifting from active to passive, and navigating all those traps of subject-verb agreement. Now we're going to synthesize all of this dense grammatical theory into 5 punchy, memorable cheat codes. Rule 1, singular matches singular, plural matches plural. That's the unbreakable pact. Rule 2, and usually makes things plural unless it's a unified concept like our bread and butter. Rule 3, words joined by or nor force the verb to agree with whichever subject is physically nearest to it in the sentence. Rule 4, words like everyone and each are stubbornly singular. And Rule 5, the phrase one of always takes a singular verb, because you're talking about the one, not the plural group they belong to. One of the boys is absent. So keeping all of those rules fresh in your mind, let's look at one final puzzle. Either the teacher or the student's blank responsible. Based on golden rule number 3, that the verb must agree with the nearest subject when using or nor, do we use is or do we use are? Look closely at the word right next to the blank. Actually, I'm going to let you figure that one out. You've got the blueprints now, so go out there and start building perfect sentences. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I will see you in the next explainer.